Folks, and welcome back to my channel. This is Professor Dawn Wooten, and this PowerPoint is what is scholarly writing? What do we need to understand about that as we move forward in composition classes? We need to go beyond the high school research paper. Let's start with some incorrect assumptions. Use big words to look smart or be impressive. Please really don't do this. We're not interested in how many big words you can use. What we're interested in is clear, concise writing that is easy for the reader to understand and process. Use the internet for all your research. No, don't do that. Regardless of how you were allowed to research in high school, once you're in college, we want you to use professional databases to find your research. Now, does that mean you can't use the internet at all? It depends on your instructor. For certain topics, I absolutely do not allow internet research of any kind. However, there is some type of internet research that I will allow. I will allow, if you need to get statistics from a government website, like from the Census Bureau or the Bureau of Labor and Labor Statistics, those I will allow. If you're writing about a medical topic, I will allow sometimes students to use the mayoclinic.com or the Cleveland Clinic's website, as I know that they are regularly updated, they are reviewed by doctors, and they are very reliable. Other than those, please double check with your instructor about what types of internet sources you can use. Books are full of facts. If they were published in hard copy prior to the advent of the Kindle, I would almost say that's true. However, because publishing has become a thing that anyone can do at any time, you can't necessarily trust the credibility of every book. If it was printed prior to 2000, I would almost guarantee it's probably accurate. However, make sure that you're checking the credibility of books prior to using them. Facts and opinions are different. They are different to an extent. However, opinions are something that you absolutely cannot use in an argumentative research paper. They are sometimes permissible in a persuasive paper, but you really want to make sure that you're using verifiable facts before you use an expert's opinion on something. You have to know your thesis before you start. No, you don't. You need to have a working thesis before you start. And if you need more information on that, I would really recommend watching the video Writing a Solid Thesis, also available on this channel. You can use your own experience as research. No, unless you are considered an expert in the field, your observations and personal experiences should not be included in a research paper. If it shows up in print, it's a fact. I think we are all savvy enough to know that just because it got printed doesn't mean it's true. Our own experiences with the internet should tell us that. Always verify the information that you want to use as source material in your paper. So the incorrect assumption, the thesis must be set in stone before drafting. The thesis statement is a fluid sentence. The topic choice must be defined, and the claim should be generally formulated, but thesis statements can be changed until the paper is done. All right, because when you're doing research, you may find that a lot of the material you uncover doesn't necessarily fit the claims you wrote in your working thesis. So you may have to alter it slightly. Or maybe your research even forces you to change your opinion or your position on the issue. So you definitely need to change your thesis statement if that were to happen. When you know you're going to have to make some changes to your thesis statement, meet briefly with your instructor or professor and tell them what's going on. Ask them, How should I alter my claims to fit this new information because it's better than what I had before? Whenever you make a change to a thesis statement, always make sure that it's in betterment of it. So let's talk about using them big words. We call them $50 words. Don't become a walking thesaurus. Don't depend on a thesaurus. Now, a thesaurus is a very useful tool. In fact, I use it myself frequently because sometimes I need to come up with a different word because the one I've chosen simply doesn't work very well in the context of the sentence. Use it sparingly. Always know the definition of a word you're using. If you were to choose a word in your Word document and click on thesaurus, it will give you every word that shares that general definition. However, if you don't know the connotation of that word, meaning how people respond to it emotionally when they read it, or if you choose something that sounds good but doesn't fit into the context of your sentence, that's not going to help your writing. You have to know the connotations. One example I give my students is the word politician. The dictionary definition is a person who serves the common good through political office. The connotation of the word politician, depending on who you ask, could be liar, baby kisser, thief. It has a very negative feel to it. So a lot of times to avoid that, I use the term representative, or I'll say senator or congressman. I just avoid that word politician at all costs. Always know the straight definition and also the connotation. The denotation is actually what we call the dictionary definition. Fact versus opinion. Facts have been proven over and over by multiple sources and are generally accepted as true. Opinions are based solely on one person's interpretation of an issue, a situation, or a fact. So we want to stick with facts in our writing. Facts are what give us the most credibility as a writer, and they are the most useful in supporting our claims and ideas. So how should we conduct research? You can use the internet, as I said before, within the limitations of what your instructor or professor wants you to use them. Libraries are still great places to find things, and you can find them even faster these days because you don't have to use a slow old card catalog. And if you don't even know what a card catalog is, Google it and learn about it, because that's how people like me used to do our research. But libraries also have access to internet databases. And databases are places electronically where you can find copies of articles that are scholarly in nature. You can find newspaper articles, magazine articles, trade journal articles. You can find dissertations written by students that have been published. Lots and lots of information there. And those databases are what we consider reliable. Do some primary research. That would be conducting interviews with people who are considered experts in the field, or you could also do a survey to get a more general idea of what the public thinks about your topic. That can be done for free through websites like freesurveys.com. I think that's what it's, freeinternetsurveys.com, something like that. There are services that offer free surveys, but they will only give you limited results. So I recommend finding one that will let you have access to all of your results and all of the data analytics that come with it. Secondary research is that stuff we look up. That'd be the journal articles, it would be books, it would be newspaper articles, magazine articles, etc. That's all secondary research. Books are full of facts. You can find topics by reading books. They are generally timely, based on when they were published. One thing you need to remember about books is if you are writing on a scientific or medical topic, be aware that books tend to be behind the science. Our technology has moved so quickly now that books often do not have the most up-to-date or accurate information. If you're looking for historical data, books are fabulous for that, especially older ones, because the closer a book is in its publication date to the time period or events that it writes about, the more accurate it's going to be. Look at the source publisher. Who published the book? Is it a well-known publisher like Penguin or McGraw-Hill? Lots of publishers out there that have very good credibility. But if it is something that was published, self-published on Kindle for Amazon or Barnes & Noble, whatever, take it with a grain of salt. Check the credibility of the author. Do they have the education and experience necessary to write a credible book? Those authors' credentials are incredibly important. How many times have they been published? When's the last time they published? Do they teach on their area of expertise on a regular basis? Are they cited by others? Are there other experts in their own field that use their material in their papers and books? Incorrect assumption. You can use your own experience as research. Unless you are an expert in your field, your experience may not be suitable to use as research. If your topic is directly related to your work or extensive personal experience, it may be suitable. Please ask your professor. One thing students love to do is write about papers they know a lot about, topics they are passionate about, and they want to use their own experiences as evidence. Unless you are an expert, you cannot do that. Papers written in an academic environment have to be written in third person, which means you can't write about your own experiences. You can't say I, me, my. You can't do any of that. What makes you an expert in the field? You hold a degree in your field. You've published in your field. You've given speeches in your field. You teach something in your field. If you don't meet those qualifications, you cannot use your own experience as research. Incorrect assumption. If it's in print, it's a fact. We kind of already talked about that. That's not at all true. Internet sources are wobbly at best. Never use gossip sites, entertainment sites, or blogs. Just a hint here, the HuffPost, which a lot of students love to use, the Huffington Post, is not a news source. It is a personal blog dressed up to look like a news source. So that is not something you can use. You cannot use Wikipedia. You cannot use general search engines. You cannot use Yahoo. You need to be using those internet databases that are available through your library. Some print news sources are incredibly biased and should not be taken at face value. We've learned in recent years that the media, depending on which media you're talking about, is incredibly biased in one direction or another. So if you're going to use something from a printed news source, check the credibility of the writer who wrote it, and then also check the credibility of the paper or the print source itself. Scholarly writing needs purpose. What is it you're trying to achieve? Most of your scholarly writing in college is going to be argumentative, meaning you're trying to prove your opinion or position on an issue. It needs audience analysis. If you're going to use proper language, proper tone, proper devices in your writing, you have to know who you're writing for. So stop and think about that. It's not just the people in your class. Who would you want to read this? Who would this be helpful for? What other audience would gain something from reading your work? You need solid primary research, meaning you need to go out and talk to experts. You need to do interviews. You need to do surveys. If you have time, you should do observations of an experiment, especially if you're doing something that's scientific. You need that credible secondary research. Again, double check the source, double check the author. You need those arguable claims in your thesis, something that can be proven, not something that's just a statement of fact or something that you believe personally. You need a strong, confident, formal tone, staying away from those pronouns, sticking with third person, and using not necessarily big words, but avoiding conversational tone or slang, things like that. Third person pronouns only. And you also need proper formatting. Depending on what class you're taking and what you're writing about, you will use most likely MLA or APA. And soon there will be an MLA APA video available on this channel. Make sure you're following all those guidelines, not just for the general format of the paper, which would be, is it double spaced? Do you have proper margins? Do you have page numbers? Are you using the right font and size? That's general format. But also, are you doing your citations correctly? Those can be a pain, but there are lots of resources out there that can help you with that. Thank you for watching this video. If you like this video and it's helpful and useful to you, please share it. Please subscribe to the channel, and always make sure that you're asking your instructor or professor questions about your assignments and making sure that you're following their instructions to the letter. I'm Professor Wooten, and I welcome you to come back and watch another video soon.